Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to North Chapel's Sunday service on Sunday, January 23rd. I'm Kristen McIntyre, and this is my daughter Ella.
I'm 4.
Who's 4. And this is Sky. How old is Sky?
1.
Ella and I miss seeing you all, and we can't wait for the day that we introduce you to Sky in the chapel. We are grateful to welcome Reverend Gwen Groff as today's reflector. Gwen has served as the minister of Bethany Mennonite Church in Bridgewater, Vermont for 22 years. Gwen grew up in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and after completing her studies, she worked with the Mennonite Central Committee for 13 years on gender and peace issues. The first 3 of those years were in England, where she met her husband, Robert. Gwen and Robert are the parents of 2 adult children. This morning, Gwen will be reflecting on epiphanies. First, please join us in singing All Beautiful, the March of Days. Thank you.
Bye.
Hello, my name is Laura Foley, and I'm speaking to you from the beautifully snowy woods of South Pomfret, Vermont, where it is snowing even now. I wanted to share with you a poem about my sister's passing, this time about what is it that we do with the remains of those family members or of beloveds, that whole question of ritual and how to honor. The poem is called Headstone. Honoring my sister elicits some guesswork. I know, I say to my kids, my wife, grandkids, grandbaby, we'll place the ashes round the maple, just where the setting sun will touch. View of curving road, forest, layered hills as far as the eye can see, and at our feet, winter's slanting shadows and light. So no rock for her, no words, but the ones we disperse into air, the thank yous, the wish that she sees our family gathering, hears the songs we offer. Would that she could answer if it's enough. My father's ashes we spread in New York Harbor, my mother's buried in a cemetery near her house, my younger sister's dissolved in a winding creek. So many ways to do this, so many crystallizations, as the snow begins to fall on all of us, as we head home in the forgetful snow.
Good morning and happy Epiphany to you. In the Christian church year, we are in the season of Epiphany, and today is the third Sunday of Epiphany. The first day of Epiphany is always January 6th, the 12th day of Christmas, or the Three Kings Day. The season of Epiphany runs from that day all the way through to Lent, the next season in the church year. I didn't grow up in a church that paid the slightest bit of attention to any seasons of the church year, so they are still a bit baffling to me, but also slightly intriguing. I do like having the year ordered by stories, these familiar tales that accrue many layers of meaning year after year. I like trying to find new meaning in the old stories. The stories of Epiphany season are the stories of divine manifestation on earth. The Greek word epiphany simply means manifestation or appearance or showing. Epiphany season opens with the story of a star in the east, appearing to ancient astrologers, the Magi, who set out to follow the star in search of a king. And then, after the Magi story, week after week, we get other stories of the divine manifesting in the human realm. The way I understand the stories of Epiphany most broadly is that they reveal that the material world and the spiritual world are not separate. The divine and the human are commingled. God is not out there and inaccessible. The divine is with us and in us and among us and between us. And although we don't always see this, it is always true. And every so often we do see it. We notice the extraordinary behind the ordinary. A truth opens up to us in a sudden aha moment. And that, of course, is the more generic use of the word epiphany, that recognition of, I just had an epiphany. The first principle of Unitarian Universalism, we believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every person, is for me an epiphany, or it opens me to the epiphanies appearing all around me. While I can say at one level, of course, everyone has inherent worth. Of course, all humans should be treated with dignity, absolutely, unconditionally. How do I practice that belief? I'm afraid that all too often I have a little voice in my head that says, yeah, but that guy is an idiot. When I get annoyed at people, do I treat them with that dignity? Do I still see their inherent worth? My current favorite poet, Padre Gotuma, recently published this little story in The Pause. There was a Polish rabbi in the 19th century, Rabbi Simcha Bunim, who urged his followers to write, "The world was created for me," on one piece of paper and keep it in their pocket. He suggested they should place a different piece of paper in the opposite pocket with "I am but dust and ashes" written on it. This, he proposed, is a necessary tension. Sometimes, he continues, I think of what else I could write on pieces of paper, things to remind me of the human condition. I am capable of kindness on one piece of paper. I am capable of cruelty on another. There is only strength in community on one piece of paper, and I must learn to be alone on the other. Carry my joy on the left, carry my pain on the right, is how Bjork put it. This is not about finding a balance, but rather knowing how to hold ourselves in tension, a clear-eyed awareness of a human capacity for destruction and a heart of hope. We need both, held tight, one in each pocket. So I want to tell you two stories, two notes I found in my two pockets. Both stories come from a quick trip that my husband Robert and I took to New York City. An overnight stay, some sightseeing, and an evening listening to Padre Gotuma read some poetry, and a chance to thank him in person for helping us get through this pandemic with our sanity mostly intact. The poet and the poetry were fantastic, but this isn't about meeting him. My two pocket notes are about tiny epiphanies of encountering strangers in the city. Robert grew up in London, and he is energized and comfortable in a city. The bigger, the better. I am rural to the core. I love farm or wilderness, but I do not feel like I belong on city streets. I love people watching and eavesdropping in public spaces. I enjoy exploring galleries and eating food from food trucks, but I am not at home in a city. It's been a long time since we went anywhere, really, any place different from home, but it's even longer since I've been to New York City. The most disappointing change that I noticed since I was last there is that everyone now apparently talks to themselves. It used to be just a small percentage of people in the city who talked to themselves, and that was disorienting in its own way. But now everyone walking alone on the sidewalk seems to be talking animatedly, gesturing, laughing. It was puzzling at first until I saw the earbuds and realized all these people in the park, on the sidewalks, crossing the streets, they're on their phones. They're making connections with people who are not here, invisible people sharing their isolated cell phone bubble. It just seems a little rude. I love seeing people make actual face-to-face connections in a city. On this visit, I enjoyed sitting at a little outdoor table at breakfast and watching a woman making friends with two men at another table by feeding their dogs, with permission, with bits of her sandwich. It seemed to be a delightful chance encounter. And people at the train station, eavesdropping. I loved hearing them. Maybe I just feel left out of the earbudded phone conversations. I'm not sure. But in the art gallery, the cell phone people really annoyed me. Why do people need to take pictures of themselves in front of Van Gogh's Starry Night? And why do they think their need to take a selfie supersedes the needs of another person just standing there who just wants to gaze at the painting? I actually heard one gazer say to one oblivious poser, "Excuse you." So I am carrying around all this self-righteous cell phone contempt as I walk through the Museum of Modern Art. And in one small gallery, I noticed a young man, perfectly still, focused and alert, standing in front of a large painting. I noticed him just as I'm about to cross in front of him, just as I'm about to accidentally photobomb his picture that I assume someone is taking of him. I look to my right, where I think his photographer will be, and there is no one there. There's just a painting on the wall. This young man is just standing and looking at the painting on the wall in front of him. He's not posing in front of the painting behind him. I stop walking and turn around to get out of his line of vision, and I swear he sees all of this and reads my mind. He smiles and says, "I like your sweater." It was so unexpected. I said, "Pardon?" And he repeats, "I like your sweater." I said, "Thank you." And I continued getting out of his way. But I was so delighted by this real encounter. If I had had my wits about me, I would have said, "I like your stillness," or "I like your presence." Because what I think he meant by "I like your sweater" was actually, "I see you. I see what just happened. I am here, fully present. There is no phone, no camera, just people and art." And what I meant by "thank you" was, "You are my people. Thank you for connecting in person." I love that kind of meeting. It might be all projection on my part. The country mouse in the big city may be imagining what was happening in order to feel a sense of belonging there. But I don't think so. And we need those kinds of connections with people we sense are like us, whether it's ongoing bonds with intimate relationships or random encounters with strangers. Those kindred spirit bonding connections are good and necessary for a sense of belonging. But they're essentially tribal. You and me against the world. People like us standing together apart from people like them. And so in the other pocket is the piece of paper that says, "We believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every person." A note that says it's worthwhile to reach across the differences that separate us. This principle doesn't say that we're all the same or even that we're all equal. That's a different principle. It simply says we all have inherent worth and dignity. How do we treat people if this is true? What do we do differently because we believe this is true? Reaching across the differences that separate us enlarges our world. We learn from the other. We offer who we are. And again, as country mouse eavesdropping in the big city, I saw a beautiful example of what this looks like in practice. Small practice, tiny, but miraculous. Part of our journey home was the train from Penn Station to Albany, New York. When we got to the station, the departure board said our train was delayed and no further information. We were sitting and waiting on back-to-back rows of chairs, everybody masked. And the couple behind us, whom we could hear but not see, they were not pleased. I never actually looked at them, but they sounded like they were older people, but a newish couple, still getting to know each other, still trying to impress each other, but confessing to each other their honest assessment of their own personalities. And they were spiraling downward with this train delay. The man says, "I hate delays. The bus is never delayed because there's not this knock-on effect of one late train holding up another train, holding up another train, holding up everything. 30 years I took the bus," he said, "and never was delayed. One time I take the train and it's delayed and no information. We don't know if it's delayed for 10 minutes or canceled for the day." The woman is solicitous, apologetic, as if this is all her fault and her responsibility to soothe him. "I just thought the train would be more comfortable," she says. "You said you were cramped in the bus the last time. I thought the train would be roomier. I know you hate to be late. I'm always late, rushing around frantically. You're always early." He corrects, "I'm sometimes early because I like to always be on time. I don't even mind that it's late. I mind the no information. The website says our train has already departed. The app just says no information. A man walks up and sits down a few seats away from the woman. I can just about see him out of the corner of my eye. And when I sneak a peek at him, I see that he's tall, lanky. He's wearing classy brown leather pointy shoes. His hair is brown. He has a suntan, even in winter. His accent is, I don't know, European, maybe Dutch. For clarity's sake, I'll call him Jan, because there are too many men in this story. Jan says that he is waiting for the train to Albany. He jokes that in Europe, the proportion of trains on time to trains late is also 80-20, but it's the inverse of Amtrak. But, Jan adds, this ride along the Hudson River is just beautiful. And going by train, he says, you can appreciate it. He's only going to Rhinebeck, he says, but the route is just gorgeous. Jan volunteers information. He doesn't ask questions. They don't exchange names. He tells them about himself, and he waits for them to tell him about themselves. He says he loves taking trains in Europe, and the most beautiful train routes in the world are in southern Africa. They ask questions and don't volunteer information about themselves. It's two completely different conversation styles, but it works for them. They ask what he does in Rhinebeck. Jan says he's a yacht captain, and the man then gets very interested. He asks, oh, what size yacht? Jan says, not too big, not too small. How many people? 21 crew, 12 passengers. Oh, that sounds like fun, says the man. Jan says, it's not who I am. It's what I do. I need to change what I do. The woman asks, what do you want to do? Jan says, I am trying to figure that out. Something out in nature, something working with nature. The woman says, then you must do that. I am sure you will. As I sat there listening to this conversation among strangers that went on for a while, I could feel the air around us shifting, lifting. And I began to suspect that Jan had done this on purpose. He had heard them sniping, just like everyone else around us had, spiraling down a sad and angry road. And he stepped in to see if he could change the situation. He was doing the work of reaching across difference. He was acting as if every person has worth. He was seeing dignity and drawing it out. And he was doing it with simple grace and even mutuality. By the time the train finally came, he was allowing himself to also be opened and seen and changed. So that's my epiphany this season. In the one pocket is a note that says, find my people. I need my people. And in the other pocket is a note that says, they are all our people. Make connections.